Unforetold Witchstone is available for your early access pleasure. However, that pleasure may vary wildly depending on your expectations and the type of game you want to play. Now, being a negative Nancy is never fun, and no one really appreciates that. But let's get a couple of things out of the way right off the top. This is early access, and by early access, I mean mind-blowingly early. And I'll come right out and say it. That $34.99 is way too high. This is not BG3. I don't think anyone's going to think that it might be if you look at the trailers, but do not expect that level of polish and that level of quality. The game has a lot of potential, no doubt, but having potential and realizing that potential are two very different things. And unfortunately, Witchstone isn't realizing very much. Going by the trailers and their write-ups, you would expect this game to be farther along in its development and have a lot more of the features implemented. But that is not the case. It's quite common to see the XML placeholders instead of the actual text, to see repeated text instead of something new that you would expect after a dialogue option or a dice roll. And there's very little variety when talking to NPCs. But as dialogue systems go, I would have to say the most egregious error is allowing the player to constantly re-roll influence fails. And when you finally do succeed, sometimes you just see those XML tags, other times you get one line such as, "He's a coward," or "He's aggressive." And so far, it doesn't seem like any of that has made a difference. Even if you know that, you don't have anything to do with it. Hopefully, this is something that has yet to be implemented. Following on from that, many times in your dice rolls, you have several areas that are just question marks. It appears these areas are supposed to be just unknowns. What it actually looks like is an error. Click through those influence checks enough, and you may get those to turn into positive or negatives. Things that will help you decide whether a roll is worth your time or not. Just keep telling yourself, it's early access, it's not BG3, this is early access, it's not BG3. And I know that's tongue-in-cheek, really, but it is true. Temper your expectations when playing this game. But you say, how about that vaunted Ed Greenwood universe that's been created? It's going to be spectacular. For that to be realized, you need compelling stories, characters, and missions. Currently, none of that seems to exist in this game. The writing is passable. It is not AAA writing. For my playing so far, the best part has been the opening sequence. When it comes to dialogue with NPCs, it is unfortunately thoroughly disappointing. It's not just forgettable, it's disappointing. There's no pizzazz, no life. Nothing grabs you about a character and say, I like that character, I don't like that character. I'm motivated to do something because of this character. Part of this is due to the style of game. This really is a choose your own adventure. They call it a sandbox for a reason, but that doesn't make it compelling. As of yet, I haven't met a single character that I would say I actually like. You can recruit just about anybody if you can influence them to do it, but other than having them there for a skill set, you're not going to get much interesting conversation out of them. Heck, the first person you meet on the docks when you finally get off your boat ride is about as indifferent to you as anybody could get. And that's a key word in this game, indifference. It is hard to write characters that people are going to care about. You can write a character everybody hates and that motivates you to go get them. You can write characters that people love and they want to talk to them and they want to flesh out that character's story. But when you have characters that you just couldn't care less about, they're just a party member to swing a sword or shoot a spell, well, for us at this channel, that's a big negative. No, didn't go into this expecting spectacular writing. Did expect it to be a little better than it is, though. And writing is one of those things that, unless this is just placeholder dialogue, something you should have early on in your game development, because you're building your quests around that. If they intend to go back and spice up the writing and make it really cool later, well, that's a dangerous prospect, because now you risk breaking quests and continuity and just having a messy storyline. But we can hope maybe they'll pull this thing together after a while. This is early access and they do want feedback. Let's hope they take that feedback and use it positively. So how about that combat? I don't often use the word meh, but that's the best thing to describe this combat as. Meh. When it works, okay, it does the job. Sometimes it just feels like you're shooting at something and hoping something happens. And I will say, if you don't know anything about D&D, this could be very confusing. The game attempts to have a very deep and complex rule system, but at this point, it doesn't feel like it's all been implemented. We're back to very, very, very early access. So how about those visuals? The character creator sucks. Hate to say that about a game, but right now, it's terrible. The models are ugly, choices are limited, and why is a default dwarf bright red and a default elf some weird yellowish thing? Those things look a lot more Yankee-ish than elves. Dang it, another BG3 reference. Again, the potential is definitely there. You have various classes, you have attribute points, and you can choose spells and cantrips. Those all seem standard fare and properly implemented. Whether they work in-game or not, that's another story. And did I mention that the character models are god-awful ugly? And they're weirdly proportioned. All of this can be fixed, of course, and it is early access, early access, early access. When I first loaded up this game, my thought was the old wizardry games. Funny enough, reading some of the comments on Steam, one of the commenters did mention Wizardry 8. It has a weird retro feel, and I don't think the gray menus with the purple highlights does it any favors. And if it wants to be retro, well, lean into that, but keep a good story. Make sure your combat is great, because graphics are not that important when your story is awesome and your gameplay is awesome as well. Wow, that was a lot of negatives. What positives are there here? Well, it has a framework to be something really good. Now, everyone's mileage is going to vary, but I was not entertained. I wanted to be. I tried to be. I really wish there were more things I could say, well, that was pretty good. Well, that was nice. It is what it is. Early access, where the potential is everywhere, it's just not there yet. So, final verdict. Should you drop $34.99 on Witchstone? No. Wait a while. Give this title a year or two. Let all those bugs get ironed out. People send feedback, because that's essentially what early access is for. Feedback and development. So poo-pooing a game and saying, oh, it's a piece of garbage, don't buy it, is not the intent of this video. So give it a little more time to develop. The early access was a little too early. But what are your thoughts? Anybody playing this game? Are you enjoying it? Do you see great potential? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.